What if I told you that there's a tax you're paying every single day, but you never see it on any bill, you never vote on it, and most people don't even know it exists? This tax is so sneaky, so cleverly disguised, that by the time you realize what's happening, thousands of dollars have already been stolen from you. I'm talking about inflation. It's the most devastating hidden tax in existence. Right now, as you're watching this video, your money is losing value. Not tomorrow, not next week, right this second. And the worst part? Most people have no idea it's even happening. They just wonder why everything feels more expensive, why their paycheck doesn't go as far, why they're working harder but getting poorer. Well, today I'm going to pull back the curtain and show you exactly how this system works and who's really benefiting from your loss. Let's start with a simple question. Have you noticed that a cart of groceries that used to cost you $50 now costs $70 or $80? Have you seen that the rent you paid 5 years ago seems laughably cheap compared to today's prices? That's not your imagination. That's inflation at work. But here's what they don't tell you in school, what the government doesn't want you to understand. Inflation isn't some natural economic phenomenon like the weather. It's not inevitable. It's created deliberately and systematically. And understanding this is the first step to protecting yourself. So what exactly is inflation? At its core, inflation is the decrease in your money's purchasing power. Imagine you have a $100 bill. Today, that $100 might buy you a tank of gas and a decent meal. But 10 years from now, that same $100 bill might only buy you half a tank of gas. The paper hasn't changed. The number printed on it hasn't changed. But what it can actually buy has been cut in half. That's inflation stealing your wealth in slow motion. Now, governments and central banks will tell you that a little inflation is good for the economy. They'll say it encourages spending and investment. They'll throw around terms like 2% target and price stability. But let me translate that for you. What they're really saying is that they've decided your money should lose value every single year, and you should just accept it. Think about that for a second. They're telling you that the money you work hard for, the money you save for emergencies, for retirement, for your children's future, should constantly become less valuable. Does that sound like it's designed to help you? Here's how the magic trick works. The government needs money to operate. They need money for programs, for wars, for bailouts, for all their spending. Now, they could raise your taxes, but that's politically unpopular. People riot in the streets when taxes go up. So instead, they do something far more clever. They print more money. Not literally printing physical bills in most cases, but creating new money digitally with a few keystrokes. The Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, whatever central bank controls your currency, they just create new money out of thin air. When you increase the supply of something without increasing demand, basic economics tells us what happens. The value goes down. If there were only 100 diamonds in the world, they'd be incredibly valuable. But if suddenly someone created 1 trillion more diamonds, each individual diamond would be worth far less. The same principle applies to money. When central banks flood the system with newly created money, every dollar, every euro, every pound you already have becomes worth less. Not worthless, but worth less. This is the hidden tax. You're not getting a bill in the mail. Nobody's taking money directly out of your bank account. But the money sitting in that account is silently losing its power to buy things. If you had $10,000 saved and inflation runs at 5% per year, in 1 year, that $10,000 has the purchasing power of only $9,500. You still see $10,000 in your account, but economically, you've been taxed $500, and you didn't even notice it happening. Now let's talk about who benefits from the system. When the government creates new money, they get to spend it first. Before that money has diluted the value of all existing money, they use this fresh money to pay for their projects, their expenses, their debts. By the time this new money circulates through the economy and causes prices to rise, they've already gotten full value from it. Meanwhile, you, the average person, you're at the end of the chain. By the time you see any wage increase, if you see one at all, prices have already gone up. You're always playing catch-up. Banks and financial institutions also benefit enormously. They get access to newly created money at incredibly low interest rates, sometimes essentially free money. They can then lend this money out or invest it before inflation fully kicks in. The wealthy, some people with assets like real estate, stocks, and businesses, they also benefit because inflation tends to increase the nominal value of these assets. Your house might be worth more in dollar terms, but so is everyone else's, and the cost of everything else has gone up too. But if you're someone living paycheck to paycheck, if you're someone with most of your wealth in a savings account earning a fraction of a percent interest, while inflation runs at 5, 6, 7% or higher, you're getting absolutely crushed. This is why the gap between rich and poor keeps widening. It's not just about hard work or education. The system itself is designed to transfer wealth from savers and wage earners to borrowers and asset holders. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you've been saving diligently for 10 years. You've put away $50,000. You're proud of yourself. You've been responsible. But during those 10 years, if inflation averaged just 3% per year, which is considered low and stable, your $50,000 has lost about $14,000 in purchasing power. You sacrificed, you delayed gratification, you did everything you were told to do, and you've been penalized for it. Meanwhile, someone who borrowed $50,000 10 years ago is now paying it back with inflated, cheaper dollars. They borrowed when money was worth more, and they're repaying when money is worth less. This is particularly devastating for retirees. Imagine you worked your entire life, saved up a retirement fund, maybe $500,000. You think you're set. But if you live another 20 years and inflation averages even a modest 3%, the purchasing power of that $500,000 will be cut almost in half. Your retirement, your life's work, slowly evaporating not because you spent it, but because the value was inflated away. Now, governments will point to official inflation numbers and say it's not that bad. In the United States, they might say inflation is only 2 or 3%. But here's another dirty little secret. The way they calculate inflation is highly manipulated. They've changed the calculation methods multiple times over the decades, almost always in ways that make inflation appear lower than it really is. They use substitution, saying if beef gets too expensive, people will buy chicken instead, so we'll measure chicken prices instead. They use hedonic adjustments, claiming that even though a computer costs the same as it did 5 years ago, it's more powerful, so actually prices went down. These tricks make the official numbers look better while your actual cost of living soars. If you calculated inflation the way it was calculated in the 1980s, using the same methodology, many economists estimate real inflation would be 2 or 3 times higher than official numbers. That means when they tell you inflation is 3%, your actual loss of purchasing power might be closer to 6 or 8%, and your savings account paying 1% interest? You're going backwards fast. So what can you do about this? How do you protect yourself from this hidden tax? First, understand that keeping large amounts of money in traditional savings accounts is a losing strategy. You're guaranteed to lose purchasing power over time. This doesn't mean you shouldn't have an emergency fund. You absolutely should, but recognize it for what it is: insurance, not investment. Second, consider assets that tend to hold value or appreciate during inflationary periods. Historically, this has included real estate, although you need to be careful about timing and location. Stocks can be a hedge, particularly companies that can pass increased costs on to consumers. Commodities like gold and silver have been used as inflation hedges for thousands of years. Some people are now looking at cryptocurrencies, though these come with their own risks and volatility. Third, invest in yourself. Skills, education, abilities that increase your earning power are inflation resistant. If you can command higher wages or create additional income streams, you can potentially outpace inflation. Learn about financial literacy, understand how money works, how the system operates. The knowledge you gain is an asset that can't be inflated away. Fourth, be strategic about debt. In an inflationary environment, fixed-rate debt can actually work in your favor if you're borrowing to acquire appreciating assets. A 30-year mortgage at a fixed rate means you're paying back the bank with increasingly cheaper dollars while the property value increases with inflation. But consumer debt, high-interest credit cards, that's always a trap, regardless of inflation. Finally, diversification is key. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Spread your wealth across different asset classes, different currencies if possible, different strategies. The goal is to make sure that no matter what happens with inflation, you have some protection. The bottom line is this: inflation is not your friend. It's a hidden tax that transfers wealth from you to the government and to those with first access to newly created money. It punishes savers and rewards debtors. It makes long-term planning nearly impossible. It's one of the primary reasons why it feels like you're working harder than ever, but getting nowhere financially. Every time you see prices go up, remember it's not really that things are getting more expensive in an absolute sense. It's that your money is becoming less valuable. And that's by design. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is how the modern monetary system openly operates. They just don't explain it to you in simple terms because if everyone understood it, there would be outrage. The game is rigged, but it's not unbeatable. By understanding how inflation works, by recognizing it for the hidden tax it is, and by taking strategic steps to protect your wealth, you can fight back. You can't stop central banks from printing money. You can't control government monetary policy, but you can control how you respond to it. Don't let decades of your hard work be eroded by a system designed to benefit everyone except you. Get educated, get strategic, and start protecting your financial future today. Because every day you wait, every day your money sits idle earning nothing while inflation runs rampant, is another day you're voluntarily paying this hidden tax. The truth about inflation is uncomfortable. It reveals that much of what we've been taught about saving and being financially responsible is incomplete at best, deliberately misleading at worst. But truth is power. Now that you know how this works, now that you see the game being played, You can make informed decisions. You can adapt your strategy. You can protect what's yours. So the next time someone tells you that inflation is just a normal part of economics, that a little inflation is healthy, remember what you learned here today. Remember that it's a hidden tax, a wealth transfer mechanism, and a system that benefits those in power at your expense. And then do something about it. Your future self will thank you.